Hello, hello. Um, so new member resources, and let me know if anytime I cut out or it gets blotchy, just let me know. Welcome to the network, who we are and what we stand for. Solidarity Network New Jersey, shortened for SNMJ, is a network of mutual aid groups in New Jersey. The role of Solidarity Network New Jersey is to build a stronger network of all the groups and facilitate resource sharing. We are building mutual aid into the cloud to ensure groups can scale as needed with the right resources. We are also learning better ways to mobilize and organize quickly. Join our network today and become part of the first network of its um, time. Teams you can join and make an impact. You can pick any team to be a part of. Technology. When you are a tech master, you will become familiar with our cloud infrastructure and the important role of mutual aid cloud, which is what our infrastructure is built on. It's our public facing infrastructure that groups can use to host their sites and projects. This is a vital part of our cloud and handles over 50,000, it should say requests, not visits, a month across our network. Logistics. When you're part of logistics, and actually that's a bigger number now, just because how many network requests we get into the servers. Logistics. When you are part of the logistics, when you are part of logistics, you love to fix broken things and plan out the fine details about how things will go. Mutual operations ensure the network is running smoothly. In order for us to be successful, all of the teams have to collaborate. Creative. Our creative team is responsible for designing all of our collateral and ensuring it matches our brand. We believe in a clear demonstration of our goals and brand will help others understand how we function and encourage others to get involved. Communications. Outreach and recruiting are tasked with reaching out to other groups and building a sustainable relationship with the network. Recruiting is also super important as it's how we grow and learn more from each other. Strength and solidarity. If you think this team is a fit for you, attend one of our meetings. These are additional teams that people can join to be a part of Solidarity Network New Jersey. Research. Compiling data about the community helps us understand needs. While part of the research team, you will create initiatives to collect data and analyze that. The data you collect will be in partnership with the technology team to make sure it can be analyzed and protected behind our secure cloud. Accountability. Doing the right thing can be hard. Sometimes we will need to have difficult conversations that expand our knowledge and help us grow as individuals and as well as a group. In this role, you will be the problem solver. You will do research on incidents and form a restorative justice approach. Rapid response. Our rapid response network is the first project we distributed to groups in the network. This role ensures that requests from groups are handled within 48 hours and a plan set in motion to mobilize resources for each request. Recruiting people for our network is super important, and you get to create how that is done. Visitor. If you just want to observe and learn about mutual aid, you are more than welcome to do that. You will also get voting privileges to help shape the future of the network. Voting is very important as it shapes where we are going with the network. A visitor also gets planning emails as well. Into the next year. So we just released Vision 2023, which is our goals for 2023 and the 5 metrics that we think we can reach in order to measure how we're doing with that vision plan. So into the next year, as we grow and build a presence, we'll be able to extend more support to other groups. Our goals are very ambitious, but we know we can reach them. We advise you to get as involved as you like and learn all you can about mutual aid and communities and how communities need something so essential. The main focus of Solidarity Network New Jersey in 2023 is to build a sustainable cloud, organize a conference, and create a resource sharing network. So there's also metrics that if you go to snnj.org slash vision dash 2023, it also explains the 5 metrics that we think we can reach if we follow that plan. And the next part of this is a virtual network. Solidarity Network New Jersey is entirely virtual and powered by the cloud. Of course, when we plan events, we are in real life, but most of the work we do is behind the scenes, organizing and creating resources for all of the groups in the network. The true power of the network is the ability to scale up and down in just minutes. We use modern practices when building our cloud and will soon be able to offer the same infrastructure that we run to other groups. Isn't that exciting? So we actually did meet that milestone, and now our cloud is fully public to any group that wants to be involved and take resources from it. The next is creating opportunities for groups to network, and it's building a platform for groups to collaborate. We've done a tremendous amount of work creating tools for groups to communicate and each other. At the conference in May of 2022, we heard that groups wanted time to get to know each other and what each group primarily does. Building connection between organizers is vital to the success of each group. While we have started to release parts of the tools we promised to do, we still have much work to do and find groups we need to meet in New Jersey. In the future, we plan to host monthly roundtables for groups to share what they have accomplished that month and how they can share that knowledge with others so everyone has the chance to learn and expand their groups. At the core, mutual aid is local, but having other groups in the network can help people receive the services they need even quicker. Explore our tech stack. Currently, all of our cloud hostings are done with Linode. We chose them because of their pricing transparency and security approach within our cloud. Sorry. Within our cloud, we have different servers and software that power our operations. For example, our website is hosted on a Linode that has 2 gigabytes of RAM and 50 gigabytes of storage. If this server ever gets overloaded, our network routes traffic to another replica of the server to make sure all of the services stay online. We use a variety of other tools to power our network. Email engagement software is very important to us to spread our message and stay in touch with members. We have decided to use MailerLite as they offer the most value for what we need. With MailerLite, we are able to fully segment our members to the exact messaging they want to see. This software is super easy to use and you can learn it within an hour. This helps us mobilize quicker with results. We have a backup option as well. Email Octopus is our backup email engagement service. We design our network with redundancy. Another platform we use is called Make. This is our automation suite that connects all of the apps together and automates data workflows to ensure the data flows to the right tools at the correct time. So this actually has to be updated because now we fully have launched Automate, which is our automation platform that we will be slowly transitioning to internally fully. And also, groups are now able to sign up for it. So, what that does is it allows them to collect data from, say, Airtable and then move that data within seconds to another app automatically without even clicking a button. So, it currently powers our rapid response network. So, anytime someone fills out their profile on our Airtable form, that data automatically gets sent to all of the other tools we use and it goes into their profile without anything having to be done or manually entering that data. And it saves a ton of time. For collaboration, we use Google Workspace. This allows our team to build documents and content easier. Along Google Workspace, we use Slack and Discord. Slack is primarily used by planners, and Discord is open to everyone in the network. And just recently, I think you guys have seen that we switched everything to Discord. So, um, Slack, while it's still there, wasn't really adopted, but everyone that kind of wants to join the network, everyone's on Discord. It's super easy to use. They have an app for everything, and people have the option to be more in control of their data. As you can see, most of our network is powered by multiple tools that do pretty much the same thing. This is to ensure for any reason if we become compromised, we will experience minimal downtime as we move to another platform. The points of unity have always stuck with us since the beginning. The only points of unity that is missing from this is we are anti capitalist, which we will be adding back to the points of unity. So you can find this and read those points of unity um, on our website at snnj.org/points dash of dash unity. And the goals we have, so it's 500 rapid response. So that's 500 organizers within our network that are able to be deployed to any action, whether it be virtual or in person, sustainability, and the second conference. There are two other goals that we have that we consider part of these goals within those metrics. So I will send out the link for all of that. And then after the meeting, I'll publish the recording after editing it. And then I'll have the links for all of that as well. And last but not least, in my favorite voice of all time, the David S. Pumpkins voice, any questions?
Very nice.
So yeah, now it gets to the discussion um part. Um Also really happy that like I timed that out to be 15 minutes and it really only took 15 minutes. So that's really cool that that's like down to a science now. But the whole point about meeting today is to discuss what Solidarity Network it is, um, what our vision for mutual aid is as we go into 2023. And I see you have a. Did we remove the anti-capitalist point just for the video recording or for another reason? So we removed anti-capitalist because of some discourse we had over planning after the conference. Um, there were a lot of confusion. Sorry, there was a lot of confusion on what being anti-capitalist meant. And one of the main concerns was that people own their own businesses and they didn't realize um, that they could also still be an anti-capitalist while still being a business owner. Just because you're anti-capitalist doesn't mean that, hey, you can't have a living to survive. It just means that we're not going to support the system of capitalism that exploits everyone that works under it and is responsible for countless deaths and injuries. For example, not supporting a company like Zoom or Amazon and like things that we rely on. And there's some things that like we do have to use these companies for, and it's totally understandable. But it's also the focus that, hey, we recognize this is the problem. We want to inspire other people to take charge and build the systems where we don't have to rely on these policies or this way of life, that there is a better way, um, and that we definitely can work toward that, whether it be today or in 50 years. So that brings me, um, yes, totally, it will be. As soon as the slide and everything is updated, it's all gonna be there. I fully support it. I think everyone fully supports it. Um, and if people don't support it, that just means we have more discussions on education around what it actually means to be an anti-capitalist. Um, doesn't mean everyone has to like be forced to not go to Walmart because obviously, like people need groceries and whatnot. It's understandable. Um, yeah, so like recognizing that there is a problem is the first step. Dismantling the system that oppresses is the next. But there's a lot to do in between those two. And getting people to recognize that is really what solidarity is about, is that we can rely on our own communities without having to rely on governments, without having to rely on these corporations, and educating people around mutual aid. Capitalism and mutual aid are mutually exclusive and incompatible. Um, yeah. So recognizing that we don't need these systems, mutual aid can service us without having these oppressive systems, recognizing that there's parts of mutual aid that can be improved, recognizing that there's things that we can do within our governments and like our voices having them heard. But most importantly, I think what solidarity really wants to focus on, and I think personally, I think we should focus on, is inspiring people to make change, whether that be in their communities, whether that be online, but most importantly, bringing those people together, meeting people where they are on the ground, and educating people that do want to learn about what it means to be in solidarity with others, whether that's in political aspects, whether that's in mutual aid, and whether that's just in everyday life, educating people on how to have these conversations so that they feel confident enough to say hey to their friend and really take charge of the conversation. And go ahead, Aaron. You can. I see you're on stack.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the education component of it should be where we're kind of putting our efforts at this point. We have some tech infrastructure that's really good, and I think it's amazing what we've done with it. Um, but I think if we're going to start actually building up to work that we can do to make progress, we're going to need to I guess kind of like tell people what we're really about. And I think the way to do that is kind of what you and I were discussing before, which is like kind of an educational program. Start getting ideas out, start getting people interested in what we're talking about. Because I mean, I'll even say like when I first joined this, I did not have a clear idea of what mutual aid even meant, and I'm still developing that, and I probably will be for some time. Um, I think one of the obstacles we face is that people hear mutual aid, and when you describe it to them, they think, "Oh, so like charity?" And you know, I think that's hard for people to kind of articulate the difference of. So they might come in very well meaning, but it's hard to kind of make them understand like what exactly we're trying to do. So I think like for now, putting our resources and our efforts into that educational component to it and starting to get that word out to people is I think I think where our efforts are best used personally.
I 100% agree with you. I think what we miss a lot when we think about mutual aid is the first word of that mutual. Um, we're not so much taking from these networks, we also need to give back to them. If we're leaning into our community, we have to make sure that we are taking an active role to improve our community and also make it more equitable for everyone involved. And I do agree that we need to focus on education, um, because during the pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic, if we're being honest, like there's a new variant that's wreaking havoc. Um, but we focus so much on stabilizing people, getting them groceries, that a lot of groups didn't really take the initiative, just because we all wanted to help everyone as much as we could, but we really didn't take the initiative to say, okay, we kind of need your help now. And I feel like building those profiles of skills that people have within the rapid response network is really going to help us because that gives us better insight onto who can do what. Instead of saying, hey, we need your help, now we know, hey, what kind of help do we need? Who do we contact for that? And sharing that rapid response network with all the groups in the network.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we habitually rely on the things that capitalism quote unquote provides for us without ever recognizing how inadequately it does so. So to me, like mutual aid is really about starting to replace the things that capitalism is really failing on us for, and getting people to understand that. So let's get concrete about this. You know, maybe we can start off. This is kind of what I was talking about before, and I like the idea. I want to know what you both think about it. Let's start off with maybe doing like a video explaining, our vision of mutual aid, and kind of start from there. Start to develop some kind of a basis of content that we can get people to kind of follow and subscribe to, and start to be interested in the work that we're doing.
Yeah, so I would love to actually do that right now. First, I kind of want to hear, I'll tell you about my experiences, why I got involved in mutual aid, and who really inspired me to get involved. But I would love to open up the floor to you, Aaron and Kristen, to tell me and share, because this video is going to be published on YouTube. So I think it would offer a lot of insight onto why other people got involved. And if you want me to start, I will gladly start, just to break the ice, and why mutual aid means so much to me. And then if you want to name which organizations you're part of, um, totally okay. Just let me know how you guys want to go about this conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I think it's just you and me now.
It shows Kristen is connected.
Oh, I
Um,
don't see. Wait.
is Beam in the way, the recording thing?
Oh, um, maybe I.
Let
I'm
me
sorry.
open up the participant. Yeah, it shows Kristen's here.
Oh,
Let me.
oh,
Yeah, I'm
oh.
here, but I was actually just typing in the chat that I need to go. It's actually bathe my toddler and get him ready for sleep. So I need to head out for that. But I am really excited about having more of these kind of discussion meetings and taking this group to the next, whatever the next iteration or next level of organizing is going to be. Count me in. I can do what I can do, and I'm happy to help support whatever needs to be done. So, looking forward to it. See
Thanks.
you all real.
Yep. I didn't
Awesome.
realize. I didn't realize that. Like, I was looking at the right side of the screen at like yours and my boxes. I didn't realize for some reason I have Kristen's as like the big box in the middle of my screen. So I missed the forest for the trees there.
Okay.
No
Thank
worries,
you for
Aaron. I'm still here.
coming.
All right.
Yeah, glad to be
Have a,
here. All right,
have a
see you
good
guys
night then.
soon. Bye.
Awesome. So yeah, I can start if you want.
Okay.
So for me, I had zero idea what mutual aid was. In 2020, I was houseless, living in and out of my car, hotels, friends' couches, and I didn't see an end in sight. Um, I had joined a Facebook group at the time, and I was just honest with everyone. I said, "Hey, can someone help me get food? I really, I'm hungry. I'm homeless." um, I didn't even have energy to share my story, and within minutes, without questions, people started organizing around getting me groceries, where they could meet me, what kind of diet I had, what were my requirements. And it was one of the first instances that I realized that there's people out there and there's groups out there that are willing to meet people exactly where they are and provide those resources. And once realizing that, and then after getting kind of more a stable situation in life, moving into a place, finally not living um, houseless, um, I found ways to give back. And one of my friends suggested that I join a mutual aid group. And that was the first time I Googled what mutual aid was. Um, and I found a group that I really enjoyed. Originally, I was part of Union County Mutual Aid. So quickly got involved, went to a meeting. I remember my first meeting. they had invited another group called Sunrise, which is really cool. It's high school kids, and I think now they include college aged people. But it's basically organizing. It's the DSA for high school students in an aspect, um, in kind of like different ways, how I kind of interpret it. And I remember I was just sharing my experiences, and one of the things I mentioned was not having access to internet when I was homeless, and it was during the pandemic, so it wasn't like I could go into a McDonald's because the McDonald's like buildings weren't open. It was just drive through at the time. So like there was really no way to get like internet or sit down somewhere. So I suggested an idea of, hey, why don't we hand out resources, water, food, everything possible, but also give people in the community Wi-Fi. And everyone was like, wow, that's a really cool idea. I was like, yeah, like you don't realize it, but like there's no internet out there. People think that there's internet everywhere. But when you're homeless and like you don't have like access to a reliable cell phone or a hotspot, there's really no way for you to interact with the world and get those resources that you need or even to learn about mutual aid. And so during that event, we met people in Elizabeth Waterfront by the library. And I think yeah, the library and the courthouse. And we just talked to people. I remember it was like 90 something degrees and I was like sweating bullets. Um, but we had cold water for people to take. We had uh, zines. We had access. We even had computers there connected to the Wi-Fi hotspot that we rented, um, helping people apply for resources that they didn't know that were available. And kind of also one of the cool things about it was just sitting in that moment, listening to stories and finding ways that I could relate and really humanizing the aspect of struggling, which I think we look down on as a society as being less of when everyone struggles in different ways. Um, so actually bringing the humanity to that aspect. And from there, it kind of just took off. Um, started going rogue, going to train stations with a table in my car and like just like, hey, I have sanitary products. Take some. Just really getting involved. And then from that group, someone mentioned Solidarity Network to me and they were like, hey, there's this group planning this conference. And I was like, huh, I'll go to one of the meetings. And I went to one of the meetings and I was like, wait, I kind of love this idea. And then the conference happened, and then since the conference, so much has happened in my life, and it's great like that meeting so many people and watching each other and like the humanity behind sharing how our lives have changed, sharing and just watching all of that and growing with people and learning more about what really is wrong in the world and how the system fails everyone, not just a select few. That's my story about mutual aid. And my vision, it's it's pretty big. But I think mutual aid can change every industry possible. Um, I think it can change how we function as a society. I think it can change government. And in 50 years, if I think about it, I really think mutual aid is going to be on the forefront of everything we think about when we make decisions as a society and as a world. For example, when people need housing assistance, it's no longer we're going to wait until there's a new list that opens up. I think mutual aid is going to step in and say, hey, these are the resources. Let's get you help right now. And I think it's going to change how we function as a society because as more people are educated on the injustices that happen every day, they're going to realize that there's got to be a better way. And people, in my opinion, are getting extremely tired of just the status quo. That this is how it should be because it's always been this way. And the whole saying, "It is what it is." One of okay. When I think of that saying, I like to say, okay, but what is it exactly? What is it that we are settling for?
Mm.
And we're just we live in a such a connected world, but are so isolated from everyone else. And I think that's going to change as mutual aid becomes the forefront in people's lives, that they realize there's other people out there with their same shared struggles, and that there's other people working toward making a better world that's more equitable, inclusive, and one that really makes sure people are heard and needs are met where they are.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks, Mia.
Of course. Your turn now.
Yeah, so I think my experience with mutual aid really began, I would say, in earnest in March of 2020, um, which I think we all can remember that the world was sort of in crisis. Um, it was at that time when basically, the government was saying we were going to like have, I guess, what, like a 10-day lockdown or something like that, 10 days to slow the spread, I think it was the deal. Um, and at the time, my thinking was like, oh, okay, that's what this is going to be, COVID. We'll all just kind of stay inside for a week or, 10 days, whatever it requires. And then things will go back to normal and it'll be like, wow, that was a crazy week. Um, and that was kind of my first thought about it. But then I started thinking some more and I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, if they're telling us that it's dangerous to go to the grocery store, like, I don't know if all of my neighbors can, like, put on a mask safely and go there. Like, they might be older, they might have disabilities. I don't really know. So I remember that night, I got out some like paper and pen, and I just like wrote out some handwritten notes. Like, I didn't really have a working printer or anything, so I just wrote some notes to all of my neighbors and like left them on their doorstep, saying like basically, hey, um, here's my phone number. I'd like to get a text chain together and see if we can just like start communicating about what our needs are, so that if somebody in our building needs something and somebody else can provide it, we can start doing that and kind of all get through this together. And a few people took me up on it, and unfortunately, I moved out of that apartment like 3 weeks later, so it was not like a long lasting thing. My lease was up, and I moved back in with my parents. But um, that summer, the mosque in my town actually started doing like these food distributions, where they got like these big boxes of food and anybody could just like drive up in their cars and we would just load a box up. And I figured to myself, well, um, it's a good opportunity for me to meet, like, or to help people in my community, and also to meet and kind of work with the Muslim population of central New Jersey. Um, Especially since, like, coming from an Israeli Jewish background, there can be a like historical antagonism there, let's say. Um, so I did that a couple of times, helped out with them, and then basically I joined DSA in February of 2022. Is that right? Yes. Been less than a year. Hard to believe. Um, and that was just kind of the process of like basically I went to a meeting and I showed up at a committee and somebody gave me some work to do and I just kept showing up to other committee meetings. And then like 6 months later, I was the membership coordinator for the chapter, and you know, going strong ever since. And then not that long after I joined, I guess it was really only like a couple of months after I joined DSA. Um, I think I was in like a one of the committee meetings. I don't even remember which one, and I heard that there was a Solidarity Network meeting that was happening right afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I could stick around for that. I was all like, let's go, let's do it, and like what tends to happen with me, I started going to meetings, and I just kind of forgot to stop. um, but we planned the conference, and Like I remember leaving that first conference just being totally jazzed, like just like manically excited and happy and just, just yeah, really good feeling. Um and at that time I still didn't have a great conception of what mutual aid really was. I mean, I was doing the grocery packs with DSA where basically we would all, like, I'd go to the grocery store, buy some groceries off a list, we meet in a parking lot, put them in boxes, and then distribute them to some members of the community. And at that time I think that was like my full understanding of what mutual aid meant. And having like these conversations with people, it's sort of like they would ask me, well, what is the difference between what you're doing in charity? And I was always like a little bit embarrassed by the question, actually, because I sort of had to say, maybe not so much. There's not a great difference there necessarily, but the mutual part is aspirational. And I think as I've been going, more and more, my understanding of what mutual aid is and therefore my vision, excuse me, my vision of what it could be in the future has also developed as well. And I now understand that, like, even in those original days where I was like just trying to organize the people in my building to help each other with their needs, um, it was really a failure of our capitalist system. It was really, this is exactly what we're supposed to have a state for in theory, that when there's a crisis like that, they can come in and actually help people. But I realized those needs were not being met. And I think we see that all over the place. We see so many places where, because our society is oriented towards the production of profit and not actually caring for people's needs, we don't actually meet people's needs very well unless they are actively providing for, a capitalist, essentially. I don't get paid unless I produce, let's go into Marxist terms, surplus labor for my boss. And when that opportunity doesn't exist, when that collapses even temporarily, if it no longer becomes profitable to hire me, suddenly my needs don't get to be met. And we know that there are millions of people in this country and throughout the world who they are not considered to be deserving of just their basic needs. So I think we need to start replacing those systems, because capitalism is always going to fail to provide us with what we need. So I think we do for ourselves. And what's wonderful about us is that we all have so many great things that we can offer. We have, I mean, Mia, you're a tech whiz. You really are. It's incredible. I guess I have whatever skills I have. I don't know what anybody would call those necessarily, but I'd like to think that I have something to offer. And we can build a community together. I mean, to me, mutual aid really does mean community. And when I think about our society as it is right now, I realize how broken up we are. I mean, how little we know our neighbors. How much we're kind of siloed into our own privately owned cars and our privately owned apartments. And, the public spaces in our country are disappearing. There are very few places left where you're allowed to just like be in public. And when we are, we don't necessarily talk to each other. So to me, mutual aid is very much about community. It's about, meeting our needs together as opposed to, through whatever system it is out there. So I guess my vision in the very short term for right now is just to start educating people about this stuff. Help them to expand their imagination beyond what capitalism kind of tells them is the normal way, and help them see actually there are other ways that we can do things. We can act mutually, we can live in community with each other. And then really long term, 50 years out, I could see that turning into something where once people have sort of internalized that different way and been educated that there's a better way, they might actually start living that way. So, a question I asked earlier is like, what would our transportation look like if it was run by essentially mutual aid? Mia, you laughed at me a little bit because, you noticed my sleight of hand that I was just using mutual aid as a substitute for socialism. But I don't think the two are really so distinct necessarily. But the point is like, our current model of transportation, right? You have to buy a car. If you can't afford a car, where your car breaks down, you're kind of screwed. Maybe you can rent one if you have the money, but most people's cars, for example, spend most of the time sitting in a parking lot, not being used. You know, what would it look like if instead of each owning that ourselves, we lived more communally? And I'm not saying the cars are necessarily the be all end all, but I think that there are, as you said, so many aspects of our society that could be reconsidered, redesigned with a view towards mutual aid. Um, you know, I don't think it's just charity anymore. I no longer think it's just, mutual aid is something that we do for the poor by those who have. Um, I think that's a very capitalist mindset because it assumes that the value is the amount of money we hold. And therefore, we have to like basically take the people who have money and give it to the people who don't have money. Well, the people who don't have money, they do have things to offer to the community. Um, and I think like full humanity means everybody being able to kind of be a part of that, be a part of that system. So I think that's my spiel. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I just, I feel so energized from this conversation because as you uncover more and more things that can happen, like you brought up transportation, like communal transportation, a lot of people don't realize that mutual aid can step in. Like, for example, when the vaccinations first started for COVID, UCMA was out on the ground giving people rides that didn't have cars to their vaccine appointments. And that's truly, I love the saying, ask a friend, because mutual aid is the friend that everyone needs. People don't realize that there's people within their communities that are willing to share what they have. Um, and I know we've been socialized to be scared to ask for help, especially from people that are close to us. Um, but that's where our community starts is educating the people that are close to us what mutual aid is and then having them go into their networks. What I think, and something I had to learn, is that my friends were a mutual aid network, but we were just exclusive to each other. Mutual aid is not exclusive, though. Mutual aid is for everyone. And we already do so many of these things, whether it's asking friends to help you move or, you know,
Mhm.
having a friend pay for your dinner that night because, hey, maybe this week that paycheck wasn't really what it should have been. Um, and we do so much. And I love the idea that we have social security, we have unemployment. Like these are all very socialist views on things, but we don't call it socialism because that's a scary word. But really, we're paying into a communal system and being allowed to tap into it. That's socialism. That's mutual aid. That's all the same thing. We're contributing something and getting something back when we need it. We're not taking constantly. And I think that's where the whole charity aspect came into play for a lot of groups and a lot of people in organizing, was that people didn't realize, hey, we have to give back. And that's where the education part comes in, is really educating people. And that would be really cool. What if there were communal cars? I mean, there's communal scooters. Like, for example, in Newark, when I didn't have a car, I would take scooters. But that was also because a company wanted to make money. What if we as a society said, hey, I have this bike. I'm done with my bike ride for the morning. If you need it, please have it back by this time. What would that look like if someone now had transportation to go to work that they couldn't necessarily get to before because they would have had to walk? Or what if someone on Facebook said, hey, I drive every day from this town to Manhattan. You live close by? Let's carpool. Um, things that we already do, like that we don't realize we're actually doing these things. And yeah, I think it's such a beautiful concept that we have everything we already need. We just have to teach people how to tap into it.
There's been a lot of articles in the past few years bemoaning the fact that people are living with their parents, older and older. Like people in their 30s are still living with their parents. And, yes, on the one hand, we can say, well, yeah, look how expensive you've made housing. Is it any wonder? I mean, people have like crazy student loans and everything like that. But I think there's another element to this as well, which is like that we've convinced ourselves as a society that the ideal is to like move out, get our own place, live by ourselves. And maybe it's not quite as much of a conspiracy as this, but think about who that actually benefits. You know, if I live in a house by myself, instead of with my family, instead of with my friends, instead of with, other people, it means I have to have my own vehicle. I have to buy my own food. I have to, everything gets kind of multiplied and you lose all of those um, kind of efficiencies, right? Which means they can sell me more stuff. So, there is a part of our society under capitalism, and this is why I say that capitalism and mutual aid are incompatible, um, that basically tries to get us to separate from each other. And so I think we're really working against that with our idea. Um, you know, hey, maybe it's communism. I don't know. I don't care.
I think I think we just have to realize there's a problem and yeah, recognizing that with every problem there's a solution
Mhm.
or at least a better outcome. And this can go into so many aspects of our lives, like restorative justice. That's another aspect. Um, there is communal loans. Um, I think the core of the reason why I am so passionate about technology is because it can be built. It truly can be built for everyone, but not everyone has access. So, also solving that issue and making sure we protect things like public libraries, especially like the main source of information, and it's all free and it's open to anyone that wants to use those services. Things like social services, that's not for everyone. Um, it's just it's branded as that, but when you really need help, is the government going to jump in that same day and help you? Not necessarily.
Yeah, one thing I think about too. So my background's actually in architecture. And my first company out of school was actually working for Toll Brothers, which is a big housing developer, really destructive company, um, which I really didn't know about at the time, but now I'm much more aware of. And um, I think when I think about housing, I've started to realize like the missed opportunity in terms of public housing, because when we talk about public housing, we normally picture you know, like let's quote unquote, the projects, right? Very poor quality housing that we stick poor, often minorities into. Um, I don't think it really has to be that way. I think, what if we really did own housing communally instead of making it as a source for profit? Um, you know, Good quality, safe, clean, well built public housing that is not just for a specific, like impoverished people, but more like our public libraries or our public schools that could be for everybody. Um, I think it's a different way. So, I think what we're really getting at when we're talking about like transportation, about housing, basically all of people's most basic needs could be met totally differently than how we're doing it right now.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think that's going to be the perfect place to leave off at and introduce a new initiative that Solidarity Network is going to be having going forward is what does this look like in mutual aid? Where we sit here and we discuss each one of those things in lives, whether it be water, groceries, housing, but really sit here and discuss what it means to look at that in an aspect of mutual aid. And I want to thank you so much for participating in this conversation. I want to thank Kristen for coming. And most importantly, anyone that catches this video somewhere along the line to not be scared to reach out and ask for help. And even when you don't need help, if you can give, to reach out and say, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I bring, tell me what to do, or show me how to start doing it myself.
Mhm.
And let's just create such a world that is unstoppable, that in a way we feel like capitalists because of how much we're doing and how much we're bringing to the table, but let's change how we do it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to turn off the recording in a few seconds.
Yeah, thanks, Mia. You've done an amazing job with this, and I think we basically had a full workday today,
We definitely did. We
and it's Saturday.
definitely did.
All right, thanks so much.